Again, welcome everyone. This session is going to be focused on teacher education and getting any questions answered that you may have. We are fortunate today to be joined by faculty from both the College of Education and Human Services, as well as the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. So we are hosted today by Shannon Ebner, so I will let Shannon take things away.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to CMU's Virtual College Days. We are so excited to have you here to learn more about what CMU has to offer our teacher education students. My name is Shannon Ebner, and I'm the Associate Director of Professional Education. And with me today is faculty and department chairs representing our different areas that we have in teacher education. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but before we get started, please feel free to ask any questions that you may have in the chat box. And as we go, we're going to go ahead and try to answer your questions as we go through. So let's get started, and we're going to begin with Dr. Catherine Durkin, the Chair of Teacher Education and Professional Development. And if she'll take just a moment to introduce yourselves, Catherine, thank you.
Hello, my name's Dr. Catherine Durkin. I'm actually a former elementary school teacher. So like many of our faculty, I've spent time in the classroom. I went on to get my PhD in educational psychology and educational technology. And I have to say, being the chair of teacher education is an exciting position to be in because I get to see all the wonderful things happening amongst our faculty and our students.
Hi, I see many of you from our last session. I'm Dr. Angie Jasper, Chair of the Department of Counseling and Special Education. It's a pleasure to be with you today. We'll answer a few of your questions. I see that you have many in the chat box already, so we'll be sure to address those for you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Ford. I am in the English education program, and like my colleagues, I also taught in middle and high schools. And I'm delighted to be here to talk with you today about any questions that you might have about secondary English education to become an English teacher, or about our writing coaches program for elementary teacher candidates. Hi. Oh, that was me too. I'll also be able to talk a little bit about our ESL minor program. We offer certifications so that teachers can become certified to teach English language learners, which is a very rapidly growing population in the state of Michigan and across the country. And these are my colleagues, our faculty in the English department, all of whom also have K-12 teaching experience and are leaders in the field and the profession.
Shannon, I'm not sure if Dr. Quick was able to join us today, so we can go ahead and just start fielding our questions. Oh, actually, let's hand things over to Madeline. We're fortunate to have a current student joining us today as well, so I apologize, Madeline.
That's okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Madeline Ollis. I'm a current student at CMU and a part of the education program here. I am from Warren, Michigan. I'm a current junior. I'm studying elementary education with a major in mathematics. And I'm really excited that a lot of people are interested in coming to Central and are even more interested in becoming a teacher. So very excited to have you all here.
Okay, we can go ahead and kick off some of those questions, Shannon.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. So let's go ahead and we'll get started. One of the first questions that's been asked is, are the classes during student teaching taken in the evening? And what do you do during seminar class? Dr. Durkin, do you want to field that first question for us?
Sure. So this year, those classes are online because our students are on a variety of areas. In the past, they've been done one day during the month for a full day. the thing is that we want to make sure there's a time when students can all come together to debrief and unpack those classroom experiences together. Now, what happens in seminar is that it's a great time to really polish those skills, and you do that in conjunction with your instructors. We focus on practices such as micro teaching, right? Taking a small bit of teaching, looking at it in depth. Also, students go through in-depth preparing using assessment data, how you would do that. And you've done this with previous classes, so please, this is something that we've worked up to, but really the instructors are there working with you to help you with that piece, taking all that information and helping guide you through developing your instruction for the class during student teaching. So those are some of the things that happen in the seminar class. And I don't know if Angie or Dawn want to talk as well about student teaching during for special education.
I will, and it's very similar in terms of the seminar course that's paired with your student teaching placement. Like Dr. Durkin was saying, that's an opportunity for you to problem solve, to share some of your experiences with your peers and your instructor, and to polish up on some strategies, get some ideas about what you can implement based on what's going on in your classroom. So it really is an opportunity for you to practice what you've learned and to get some help along the way.
And just to clarify, we have sites in which these seminars, if they happen face-to-face, are all over the state as well.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, thank you. One of the questions is, what is the annual salary rate for the first-year secondary education math teacher in Michigan? And we don't have anybody here from the math department with us today, but we do have secondary education, Dr. Ford, with us from English. And again, somebody also from teacher education and from special education. In general, I would say some of that is going to make a difference in terms of if you're in a private school or a public school, also what state you may be teaching in. So my understanding is the average first-year salary can range really anywhere from the mid to high 20s to the $40,000 range, but I'll let the teacher ed professionals go ahead and give you a little bit more information. Dr. Ford, do you want to start us off?
Sure. And Shannon, I think you're right that salary range will vary depending on what school district, what state you're in. And what I found that a lot of our graduates are doing is they can do that research that's publicly available online. And they're not only comparing starting salaries, they're looking at the benefits that teachers have. What kind of medical insurance do they have? What is that learning community like when they join a school? What kind of support do they get for professional development? What is the community like there? And there are a lot of different factors that they look at in addition to salary, including the steps that you can get and the way that you can get raises. So when you're asking this question, there are a whole host of factors besides just the starting salary that you will want to take into consideration when you make the choice about where to teach.
Thank you so much. Dr. Jasper, Dr. Durkin, do you have anything else to add to that?
I would concur with Dr. Ford and would very much encourage students who are exiting the program to look at the entire package that's available to them to figure out what is best for them and their aspirations as they move forward in their careers.
Yep, I agree. That's great advice because that's the job you want to have for quite some time, and all these things will impact your working experience. So that was really good advice.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Another question, is student teaching all day or half the day, Dr. Durkin?
For student teaching, you are there when you are there for the full day. There's not a partial time. You are there. You'll want to arrive right before the students get there, and you are there for the full classroom day. So yes.
And if I could add, when you get to student teaching, the goal is for you to actually engage in teaching. So you will arrive, as Dr. Durkin mentioned, when the teacher arrives, when the teacher leaves, you're there most of the day. But something to remember is that as you're going through the experience, your responsibilities will start to increase so that you can actually feel what it's like to be a teacher. So you'll become more and more responsible for instruction, more and more responsible for students. So the goal of student teaching is to get you to have that experience. You are a student who is a teacher. That's really the goal of that experience. So to make the most of that experience, you have to be there most of the day to see what it's actually like. There's no opportunity for cutting corners in terms of time. Like that's the grind time. That's when you show what you got. So.
And it's time to be part of a community of educators. And that is really helpful and important too. That's
building those relationships.
You know, we're getting great questions about student teaching. Sorry, Shannon, if
No,
I
you're
don't
fine.
here. But I want to emphasize that we don't wait until student teaching to get you working with teachers and students.
Mm-hmm.
We build in those experiences all the way through the program. We start by preparing you in the safe space of our courses so that you study practices by maybe watching videos and learning about these different teaching methods. And then we let you practice with your peers and rehearse those practices before you actually work with real teachers and students so that you are confident and prepared. And then we build up those experiences where, for instance, in English, you might get to work in an after-school book club or a digital book club. You might get to provide feedback on students' writing. In the elementary program, we have writing coaches, about 100 of them each semester, that we send out into local schools who work with young writers, doing conferences with them, helping them improve their writing. So they're in the classroom from the get-go. And all of our programs have a range of earlier experiences that then build up for that increasing responsibility that Dr. Jasper talked about. So by the time you get into student teaching, you are ready to hit the ground running, more like a first-year teacher than a student teacher, I think.
I think that's an excellent point and very, very true. We have a great question coming in about Special Olympics. Dr. Jasper, if you'd like to start with that, and Madison or anybody else who maybe had some different experience with that, would be great to go ahead and chime in and give a student perspective as well.
I'm sorry, I don't see the question.
Oh, that's okay. It says, can you talk about opportunities in volunteering with Special Olympics?
Oh, yes, sorry. So in general, there are quite a few volunteering opportunities available to students on campus. We have the Volunteer Center, the Mary Brandel Volunteer Center, through our UC, University Center, that students can go and participate. Also, within courses, though, there are what are called service learning opportunities. There are sometimes professors or instructors have connections with teachers out in the community, with those who are employed with Special Olympics, to allow students to go and to have experience working with students who have disabilities in a variety of ways. When we think about Special Olympics, helping with some of the sports, we have many students who use their time to volunteer and serve in a variety of capacities to help with the sports that students are participating in. So there are plenty of opportunities. It really all depends on what your interests are. You know, you're talking about Special Olympics, but we also have different clubs and RSOs here on campus that allow you to gain some experiences that could be helpful to you in your future career. There are RSOs and clubs targeted toward elementary education, areas within secondary education, such as math, science. There are even those that are focused on special education. So volunteering opportunities available on campus within the Mount Pleasant community, really it is based on what you might be interested in.
Would anybody else like to expand on that at all?
Sure. I just think what's really great about Central and our teacher ed program is that although you have those experiences in the classroom and in the fields, there's so many organizations on campus and so many conferences for you to learn. I think what's great about teaching is that there's so many ways for you to grow as a teacher just through practice. And I think whether it's special education, younger children, elementary or secondary. There are so many organizations that you can get involved with to grow yourself as a teacher, but also as a person. And I think when you go into teaching, you're really passionate about working with kids, and there's just so many opportunities for you to get involved with inside and outside the classroom as well.
Thank you so much. Alexa is asking if you can study abroad in a classroom, and can you do this during a winter or spring break?
That is an excellent question. And actually, we have two programs. We have one where students last year went to the Dominican Republic, and they did part of their student teaching in Michigan and part in the Dominican. So their 16 weeks were spent partially in Michigan, partly in the Dominican. But then that's a study abroad program. And then we also have a study away program in Immokalee, Florida. The area of Immokalee, many of the children that go to that school are from migrant families, and that school district is a fantastic school district, developing strong community relations with all caregivers. And they've developed some wonderful strategies for reaching students with English as a ELL, ESL students. And it's a great opportunity. In fact, we've actually had alumni from CMU create a special, they've donated to help support these students who want to go on this program. So that's the other thing about the study abroad, that there are some scholarship opportunities and financial aid that is specific to these study abroad, study away programs, because donors have seen the benefit of these experiences for students wanting to become teachers. Did I answer that question? I hope I did. Yep. Okay.
Maybe one of the student panels would like to answer, although Dr. Jasper touched on it a little bit. We have a great question from Sarah that's asking about, are there good volunteer opportunities around Mount Pleasant for teaching?
I can answer. I would say there's a lot of opportunities. I think Mount Pleasant is a very supportive community, especially going into the teaching fields. When you first start out, whether you haven't joined the teacher program yet, you take an intro to teaching class, and they'll get you out there and make sure that you're getting those observations right away. And also just getting those observations is a great way to get into the community, get into those schools, and start reaching students. But there's also a lot of organizations on campus that'll really get you out there and get you connected. I know there's things when you're in the class, you can do pen pals and lots of opportunities to volunteer in schools that'll really make you a great teacher in the future.
Thank you. Dr. Jess, go ahead.
And just to add on, I feel like I should mention the STEM educator program, right? And this kind of goes along with all the unique, Dr. Ford had talked about opportunities we have throughout. But we do have the STEM educators program, and that's something, if you're interested, you don't have to be someone majoring in science, math, engineering. We've had history majors, but being part of this group too, that they also engage in design-based thinking, working with students in the community, and they do provide those additional experiences working with students, K-12 students, PK-12 students.
And it is a really amazing opportunity, and there are also opportunities to be able to come on campus and visit those areas during some of our discovery days and other things where you can come in and look at places like our STEM Center. We also have a state-of-the-art early child development and learning lab that students are able to go in and have great experiences in. So those are opportunities if you have the chance to come to campus. Dr. Jasper, we have a student who's asking how long it would take to major in special education and minor in American Sign Language.
I think, Shannon, I'll leave that to you in terms of minoring in the ASL, but well, you can speak to that, but I don't know how difficult it would be to get into choosing a teachable minor and major and all of that stuff.
So in general, for special education, students are able to follow that on different tracks. Currently, it's an elementary track and a secondary track, although there are changes going through the Michigan Department of Education right now that will offer that with different options. In general, I would say that a special education major with almost any minor that you would be able to choose is going to be approximately a 5-year program. That does include dual certification, though, both in general education and in special education. And you have 2 field placements for student teaching as well as pre-student teaching. So you're able to get into the field with both gen education and special education for both pre-student teaching and student teaching. So because of that dual certification, it is a little bit longer. Students can often take classes in the summer at a community college or here on campus. So academic advisors will help you work out a timeline and look at what courses you might be able to take either here or back home during the summer to help shorten that time up for you a little bit.
I'd also like to add that one of the reasons why the special ed program does take longer is because it used to be a master's degree, and that was the only way that you could get your certification in special education. And when you think about the nature of special education, where you are tailoring your instruction to individuals, the wealth of knowledge that you have to know about learning disabilities in order to really be effective in those classrooms with those students is vast. So it is a longer program to take the special education route, but you're also being trained to not only work with students in special ed, but students in general education programs as well. But we do have students that get through our programs, even in secondary, for instance, with a double major of, say, English and history or English and math. They get through in 4 years. It's only the special education, because of those additional state requirements and the added knowledge you need to be successful, that it might take up to 5 years. And I would say that if there is a program out there who's doing it in less than 5, they aren't doing it right.
The other thing I would say is that CMU really prides itself on its academic advising staff. So from the moment that you walk in at orientation, they help build that first semester schedule for you so that all of those classes are the correct courses. We call it double counting and triple counting, where we can use a course in many different areas and have it count for us, not just in one place, but it could count for you in 2 or 3 places. And you'll have a college advisor, you'll have faculty advisors that work with you. So you can see those advisors as often as possible, and they help do a timeline for you and arrange your classes, so that that really helps with your time management as well. So do not be afraid to utilize those academic advisors when you're on campus and even before you get here. Or if you're thinking of going to a community college first and transferring, you can talk to an academic advisor here prior to transferring or being admitted here, which is a great idea to make sure that you have the most up-to-date transfer guide or articulation agreement, and you're following all the right courses even at a community college. So take a look at all of those as well. So here's a great question. How difficult is it to transfer a teaching certificate to a different state or country? You want to take that one?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it's not extremely difficult. It's doable, and you can jump in when you like, Catherine. But you know, many states have, once you receive your teaching certification, many states have what's called reciprocity, where you can demonstrate that you've met requirements to receive teaching certification in your state. And then some states may require you to take a certification test, and some may not. But again, it depends on which state, which area that you are interested in moving to. And then we can help you in terms of figuring out what those requirements are and what that would look like for you to transfer that. But just know that it's doable. It might take just a little bit of work, but it's very doable.
And I would add that I think that teacher education, or the state of Michigan, has some of the highest standards for teacher education. So it's often much easier to get your teaching certificate here and then transfer to another state or area than it is to do that in reverse. So I think that gives you another great opportunity. Catherine, did you want to add anything, or you're good with that?
No, I think you guys have covered it all. I was actually hoping to get to the question about faculty-student relationships.
Go ahead.
And I think that's one of the great attributes of CMU. I think it's something that we are very proud of, how approachable our faculty are and how accessible they are. Yes, we hold office hours, but it isn't uncommon for faculty to continue to talk with students if there's not another class coming in, after class. But our faculty in all colleges and departments, I think here at CMU, are known for being accessible and going above and beyond to work with our students and support them.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree. As a student, I've had amazing faculty and professors who are really willing to help you and who want to see you succeed. Going into college, I was definitely very scared that a lot of the professors would be more scary than I thought they would be. And I want to say that they're not. There are so many professors here at CMU who just want you to succeed and who want you to do their best, whether they're just giving you more time on an assignment or just helping you during office hours. They're really here to help you become a better teacher and a better person here at CMU.
Thanks. Madeline, can you also maybe talk a little bit about some of the educational clubs or organizations that students on campus could be a part of?
Yeah, of course. There's so many opportunities here at Central for you to get involved, specifically in education. For example, there's a lot of teaching organizations that specifically range from K through 12. You don't have to be just elementary or special ed. There's so many different opportunities for you to get involved with. There's things like Lunch Buddies. That's another volunteer opportunity that you can do to get involved in the communities, have lunch with a bunch of students in the elementary schools here. There's organizations that really help you plan conferences and just learn more about the profession in teaching and just help you get more excited about what's going on. There's the STEM Ed program, which we've talked about before, where you get to work with students, and just so many other organizations here on campus that help you professionally, but also help you get involved in the community here in Mount Pleasant and just get more connected with faculty and students who are also really passionate about teaching and children.
Thank you so much. This is another question. I think we can start with Dr. Ford because she's from the English department. I know they have some special services for students in this area, and this might be another great time for Madeline, our student, to chime in. This question is, what academic resources are offered to students if they are struggling in a class and need extra help?
I think like Dr. Durkin said, your faculty member is your first point of contact. But we find in English that we have a really vibrant community of peers. And so some of those student groups will also support you. In addition to that, we have success coaches, and they're located right in the dorm area. So they're very convenient for you to be able to go and get any extra help. Different subject areas like math and statistics and science have their own tutoring support within those colleges. We also have free counseling services on campus, and so that's really great to take advantage of to help acclimate to the college campus. We have additional financial resources that are available for students that became really important for navigating the challenges that we've all faced last semester. So we have a variety of support. I think CMU, out of all of the colleges in the state, that's one thing that really distinguishes us, is the variety of supports that we have for students.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, there's also the Literacy Center on campus that has provided a lot of support for struggling readers in the local community, and they integrate, students are a huge part of that, and that's another great opportunity.
And there's a tutoring center on campus, so there are many areas like mathematics and science, especially when you first get on campus and you're acclimating yourself and you're starting those courses. There's different tutoring services that students and different faculty will be willing to work with you. So always be an advocate for yourself. Start with your faculty member, and then you're able to branch out. Your academic advisors are also going to be great resources in terms of where you can go for those types of help as well. This is a great question. Can you still do a sport while you're student teaching? Do you want me to take that one, or do you want to, Dr. Durkin or Dr. Jasper?
One of the things, I mean, that goes along with having a job and other responsibilities. this is a critical year for you where everything is coming together as a future educator. And we do strongly recommend that students limit all other responsibilities before they go into while they're doing student teaching for that one semester. We like that one semester to be protected so that you can really develop those relationships, develop your skills, develop as a professional before you go out on that job search. And I think protecting that time has been very helpful. How's that?
That's good. Excellent. And I do think sometimes we have a lot of student athletes in the teacher education program, so we work really hard with you to work your academic schedule along with your athletic schedule when we're coming to your field placements. Usually by the time you do that student teaching placement, it's your very last semester here. And so by that time, you are usually done with your athletics. I have had some students do it in between and do it on a season that's not where they're playing, but they're doing their practicing. And so we've worked out different types of arrangements for students if we have to, but I don't know that I've had any complaints in terms of that working out, student teaching working out for the students who are athletes as well. So Madeline, this is a great question. What are some activities to do on and around campus?
There's so many things to do on and around campus. We have over 400 organizations that you can be involved with. I know we've been talking a lot about the teaching ones, but there's a variety of things from squirrel watching to Frisbee, whatever you want to do. I'm sure there's something for you. Just joining in those organizations is a great way for you to meet people, to get involved. I know campus always has events going on, and even our teacher ed program, they put on so many events that are teaching related for you to learn from. But I think just putting yourself out there, especially that first year, to meet new people and to just get involved, that'll help you as a student as well. It's not just about going to classes, it's about doing things on campus, getting involved, and just having those opportunities that will grow you as a person, which if you're looking into teaching, which will grow you as a teacher as well.
Thank you. Charlotte wants to know, when do you first get into the classroom? Dr. Durkin, you want to take that one?
So that goes a little bit with what I was talking about earlier with the exploratory hours that occur early on in your program. And it's more of an observational, right? It's for you to think about, have experience in different classrooms to help you figure out what classroom is the one you want to dedicate yourself to. You want to be, in terms of thinking, do you want to be elementary, secondary? You know, do you have an early childhood, you have a passion for early childhood education? So very early on, you do have some of those exploratory hours that you'll engage in your program associated with 107. But then we've also got some experiences, for example, like Dr. Jasper had mentioned with service learning as well. But we start you off right away. And once again, I'd like to also double on what Dr. Ford had said, in that it's more than just putting you in the classroom, right? It's how we scaffold it and give you access to those experiences and opportunities to practice. So there are in-classroom experiences that are littered throughout the program, but then there are those supports and ways of engaging in the practice of teaching in the classroom that help prepare you to be successful when you get to student teaching.
Thank you. We have a question, can I take classes outside of my major, like music and theater? So let me I'll try to answer that a little bit, and then Madeline, you might have some added as a student who's taking those courses. So in elementary education, it is fairly prescribed in order to get you out in the time frame that we want to when we're trying to look for that 4-year mark. The nice thing about the elementary education program, because you are going to be teaching all subjects, you are going to take classes like how to teach music, how to teach art. There are some theater elements in that. For our speech class, many students will take the TAI 170, which is oral interpretation. So you do have some of that flexibility in elementary. In secondary education, you have a little bit more because it's not as prescribed, because you're teaching more your content area as opposed to all subjects. So within our general education requirements, we ask that students are taking classes from humanities, natural science, social sciences, global diverse areas. And in those categories, you will find a lot of other courses like photography, music, theater that you may be interested in and that you can take that will also be a general education course. Madeline, do you want to talk a little bit about scheduling?
Yeah, so what's really great about Central is that you get an academic advisor who really helps you make your plan about what your classes are going to look like, how the years here at Central are going to plan out, and that really helps you out with scheduling. For example, my academic advisor, she gave me a plan where I get little sticky notes and I write down all the classes I get to take. If you actually, once you get on the Central website, there's an area if you plug in, like, this is my what if situation. So if I want to be a teacher in elementary education, what are the classes I'm going to need to take? And what's really great about that is it makes a plan for you and it shows you all the classes you need to take, by when, how many credits you need, and things like that. And then you can just make a plan for yourself. It doesn't always stay the same, but it's really great that you have a set idea of what this plan is going to look like, how long it will take, and things like that. So scheduling it's not as scary as it seems, but it's definitely something that you'll want to put thought into, especially if you want to be out by a certain year.
And Madeline, while I still have you, we have a student who is asking, do you take education courses during your freshman year?
Yes, you do take education courses in your freshman year. We talked about it, but the first course you usually take is Intro to Teaching, which is our EDU 107 class. And this is the class where you're kind of dip your toes into what the teaching program is like at Central. This is where you get to do those observation hours in a real classroom in the community and kind of get interested. Is this something I want to do? Is this something that I want to do elementary or secondary for? And kind of get a feel of this is the career for you or not. And what's really great about it is they introduce you to things like the scaffolding they've been talking about is what is it like to be a professional? How can you become a better public speaker? And all those things that'll really help you become a more well-rounded educator, especially if you're first starting out into that field. But yes, there's a lot of classes you can take, but that's usually the first one that you take right away is the Intro to Teaching.
Thank you.
And if I could jump in, Shannon,
Yep.
and talk briefly just about the Intro to Special Education class. We have a course that's similar that's offered that provides students with an opportunity, whether you are considering pursuing special education or not, an opportunity to learn about the different students that you may encounter in the classroom, the types of disability populations that you may see in schools and in your classrooms. And as Madison was saying, it gives you some tools that you can add to your belt as well in terms of strategies and things to be mindful of when interacting with students who have disabilities in the classroom. So I always recommend, going back to my earlier slide, my earlier thoughts about students with disabilities being in general education classrooms for most of the day. I always recommend to students, even if you're not interested in pursuing special ed, it's still a good idea to take the course so that you can have that familiarity and that knowledge and skill that could be helpful to you in the future.
Thank you so much. And the other thing is that when you know the content area that you are wanting to teach in, so let's say you were wanting to be an English major in secondary education, and we know that when you're coming in, you will usually then have an English course that's going to go towards that teachable major in your freshman year, your first semester, and usually one or two courses your second semester of your freshman year. So we really try to get you into both the education side of those courses, like the Intro to Special Education and Intro to Teacher Education, but also start you in those content areas. So you start that work as well in a combination with the teacher education intro courses. Somebody asked if they are assigned an academic advisor, and you will be assigned an academic advisor when you come through orientation. So here in the College of Education and Human Services, we have several college advisors that will work with you. But when you first get here, you'll be assigned an advisor that will work with you in terms of your first year schedule. So you'll meet teacher education advisors at orientation, and then you'll work with general advisors on your first year schedule. There's mandatory advising, so that's really an effort to make sure that we're keeping you on track so that they can graduate in a timely manner. And then you have college advisors and faculty advisors that work with you as often as you need to through that program. But yes, you will have an assigned advisor, so that helps you through that process a little bit as well. There seems to be a few questions also about our PEAK program. Dr. Ford, it looks like you maybe have answered a few. If you want to talk just for a moment about what PEAK is here at Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant.
Well, PEAK is a program that is offered by the city of Mount Pleasant, and they're one of our community partners in that they often hire our students to work during the after school hours. So if a child goes to school and at the end of the school day, maybe their parents work or they want enrichment activities, their child can attend PEAK. Usually it's more for the elementary grades, probably up to 6th or 7th grade usually. And our students sometimes work there. So that's a great way when we're talking about volunteer hours, ways to get experience working with kids. You can also get paid to do it. That's pretty cool.
It is, and it's a great opportunity to work with so many different children from different areas around the community, and to get your foot in the door and actually be in the elementary, middle school, and in some of the secondary areas. So somebody is asking, is there an opportunity to go into all grade levels in freshman and sophomore year to see if a certain grade level is right for a student? And may not be, or it may not be the grade that they were originally thinking of going into.
So I'm going to try and approach that one. There's sort of a philosophy around this too, in a way. So what we want you to think about is sort of the group. It could be whether you want to be an early childhood educator, elementary educator. We would want you to have a substantive experience to make that. So it's like mile wide versus right, to make that decision. So rather than making sure that you hit every grade level, we want you to have substantive experiences at, approximate levels, as well as when you go to secondary. And Shannon, you had mentioned this earlier. You want to think about there's that major in a content area, right? So you'd really need to think about, what content area you would like to major in. If you're thinking about elementary, you want to think about, well, am I thinking about working in an early childhood center, maybe becoming a director, or am I thinking about elementary education, PK6 or just PK3, and think about having opportunities or experiences in those areas. Does that make sense?
Would anybody like to add to that?
I'll add to that. I think when you think from the perspective of a principal who is going to hire, one of the things that they often look for is flexibility with whom they hire. So while, for instance, in secondary, it's possible to graduate with just one certification area these days, but a lot of the time when principals go to look at hiring someone, if they see someone who has both English and history certification or math and English, they'll sometimes go with someone who has more flexibility than someone who's only got one certification area. So that's something to consider. And it's kind of the same thing with the elementary grade banding that's the Michigan Department of Education has encouraged, so that if you're certified from PK all the way up to grade 6, you might have a lot more options when you graduate than if you have the narrower grade band. So those are some things to consider as you're making these choices. And again, seeing an advisor, we do a really good job of getting you through quickly and efficiently. And we've even changed the times of courses to accommodate students' schedules, opening up a whole new course just for a handful of students. Thank you, Dr. Durkin, who needed a certain course. So we really take that seriously, and we do a lot of advising and working behind the scenes to make sure that you are the most prepared, but also getting done in a reasonable amount of time.
So Dr. Ford brought up a really good point when she talked about grade bands, and we do have a student who asked a question about the different type of grade bands. I'll get us started on this, and then faculty, please feel free to elaborate and jump in as I go. So in the past, teacher education has been elementary education, K through 5, all subjects up to the 8th grade in your subject area, and then secondary education that is 6th through 12th grade. And usually you had a teachable major and oftentimes a minor. So you might have an English major and a math minor, or a physical education major and a school health education minor. And those would be the content areas that you'd be able to teach. Special education for us is a K through 12 major, which you could then teach on an elementary or a secondary route. And then we also have some K through 12 majors like art education, music, physical education, school health education. But in the last few years, the Michigan Department of Education has made a few changes, and really for the better, really trying to look at what is it that teachers in the field are needing to know most, and what are some of the things that they were maybe missing before. And so a lot of the survey and research data showed that students were needing more courses in special education, in early child development and learning, and a lot of things having to do with mental health and things that are maybe surrounding families and communities and dealing with students in the classroom. So the Michigan Department of Education has decided to rewrite the standards. They have been rewritten for elementary education, and they are in the process and working on middle level secondary education. So for us here at CMU, what that means is that we will have grade bands. So it will no longer be an elementary or a secondary teaching certificate, but a standard teaching certificate in which you will have grade bands that will allow you to teach. And the exciting part about this is that our hope is that a student would be able to, after potentially graduating, add on an additional grade band, hopefully online and for less credit hours than it would have been to do an entirely new major or minor. So for us, the options are birth to K, so that's birth to kindergarten, and then we have pre-K, pre-kindergarten to 3rd grade is our second band, and then our third band is grades 3 through 6. But then we've also done some combinations. So those are the 3 standalone options, but a student will also at CMU then be able to do birth through 3rd grade, and they'll also be able to do PK through 6th grade. So currently that's the new elementary education look. Secondary education is still going to be looking at grades 6 through 12 and picking a teachable major and the option of a teachable minor. So faculty, if you want to join in on any of that as well.
Well, I just wanted to emphasize, and this goes along with what Shannon and Amy have both said, in that we've done the thinking for, and we prepared this for you to help make you more flexible. So if you do want to go for 2 bands, we have what that program would look like, right? So an advisor can work with you. We plan that out so that you can go for both of those certifications. So you can get certified both in BK, right, and PK3 through this dual band program that we've put together. So we've anticipated the desire to be flexible and have created these programs, and I think that that's very helpful. And then PK6, right? And I think that I really do think the distinction is, elementary education, working in elementary school, or working in an early childhood capacity, wanting to become a director of an early childhood center. And I think those sort of distinctions help you think about the 2 different bands.
And if you're not sure what band is the best match for you, both faculty advisors and your academic advisors will run through all of the options and explain what it means to be in the different bands, and also then how after you graduate you might add on additional bands. So I see we're coming to a close for this afternoon's session. I believe Katie might jump back on to talk to us, but from all of the faculty and students who have joined us here today, we cannot say thank you enough Please do not hesitate to contact any of us with questions. If we don't have the answer, we'll get the answer for you. And we're truly, truly excited about having you here as Chippewas. So fire up Chips. And you'll also see an email on the chat line, ehs@cmich.edu. So ehs@cmich.edu. And you can email any question that you have, and we'll do our very best to answer it for you. Thank you, everybody, so very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.